Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. So in today's video, Bitcoin June relief rally, we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, the likelihood of the Bitcoin price having a relief rally in June. Specifically for this video, after I present you the evidence, I'm going to talk about why I think this relief rally is going to be taking place over the next 2 weeks. Let's jump right into today's video. So what we're going to be talking about today, to back up my theory that Bitcoin is going to be pumping over the next couple of weeks, is the US dollar index. We're then going to be looking at how the stock market's performing. We're going to be doing a quick microdose of the past 9 red weekly candles we have over on the BTC USD chart. And then we're going to be moving over into the Bitcoin fear and greed, and we're going to be wrapping up the video by once again revisiting this chart and looking at what previously happened on some of these moving averages and some of these trend lines when we do capitulate into the last phases of the capitulation, meaning are we going to have one last bounce before we have the mass capitulation? For that, we're going to be looking at the macro charts and looking out for relief rallies, but more specifically, we're going to be looking at the 100 and 200 day moving average and how they correlate to bounces and relief rallies before mass capitulations. Let's jump right into today's video. So, looking at the US dollar index, also known as the DXY. If you're wondering why we're looking at the DXY, the US dollar is basically inversely correlated, or it's predominantly inversely correlated to Bitcoin. For example, if we look at the US dollar index since the 24th of May, we can even take this back a step. We can say since the 4th of January 2021, the US dollar index has been in a huge rally. What has Bitcoin been doing since the start of January 2021? Well, we were round about these phases, and we're not too much lower than when we previously were. But at this moment in time, Bitcoin was in a bull run. What happened is the dollar decided to go into a bull run. Bitcoin topped out, broke down, had a double top, broke down, came back up and broke down below these lows. So you can clearly see the US dollar moves up, and on average Bitcoin moves down. So the fact that at this moment in time, within the past couple of weeks, the US dollar index is moving down, this could definitely allow for Bitcoin to have a relief rally over the next week or two. That is one data point out of a ton of things that we're going to be talking about today. But you can see, zooming out on the weekly time frame, we've encompassed a ton, which I'm not going to go into this video because I'm going to try and make this as clear and concise as I can. But basically how we got this big red box here is we looked at daily time frames, we looked at weekly time frames, and we looked at monthly time frames, and we looked for the most amount of candle body closes, we looked for the most amount of daily and weekly candle body closes and support structures within this triple top structure that could potentially hold the dollar up in case we do break below it. And you can see some of the last lines in the sand are coming into these wicks up to the top here, and also some of the rejection points in this cycle over here. So what you'll notice is on the US dollar index right now, we're breaking down. I mean, it seems pretty black and white. We're obviously breaking down, but I wouldn't count the dollar out until it's done. I would like to highlight very momentarily that there was a phase where for this was pretty much 3 weeks, because the dollar came back down and massively capitulated on the 3rd week, and even we topped up here. But you can see there was a point in time just before the dollar's blow off top where the dollar moved down about 5.25% before having a big rally. We're only down about 3.5%, so do not count the dollar out until it's all said and done. The dollar can just rebound whenever it likes, but at this moment in time I would not put it past Bitcoin and the stock market to have a bounce because of what the dollar's doing. Let's check out what the stock market's doing. So, you know, like I said, dollar goes down, stock markets and cryptocurrency assets predominantly go up, and this is really what we've been seeing on the stock market. I mean, look at this. For the past couple of months, stock market's been capitulating to lower levels. What's the dollar been doing for the past couple of months? It's been going on a big rally. So you can see how the crypto markets and the stock markets are inversely correlated to the US dollar index, and put quite simply, the stock market is having a nice relief rally, and we've put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red weekly candles. This is also something that we really don't do too often. 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, even in these mass capitulations, this was the pandemic scare. We were done and dusted with the downtrend at this moment in time, but we're still capitulating, which definitely makes me think, you know, we could be having a relief rally, especially for the stock market, that will bleed over into Bitcoin in a good way. Also, looking at the Bitcoin price, you can see, like I said, we've literally been going sideways. We've had 9 red weekly candles at this point in time now. 63 days worth of an absolute slaughter fest to the downside. And we haven't seen this before. I mean, if you zoom out on the chart, the most we've ever seen is 6 red weekly candles in a row to the downside. And even in the bear market phases where we were coming down to, you know, 3,100, even in the pandemic scare where we came down to 3,800, we really didn't see more than like 3 red weekly candles in a row during these phases. So the fact that we've just put in 9 very much tells us that we're very much in uncharted waters at this moment in time. So be very, very cautious trading these markets. But for those reasons, I do think also that the US dollar could be coming down over the next couple of weeks. The stock market and Bitcoin could have some leeway to have a relief rally because of this. Let's check out the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Now, what you'll notice at this moment in time is with this color-coded Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, put very simply, you'll notice that as soon as we come down into these darker red phases, these are always the bottom. So for example, we put in an 8 around here, we put in an 8 and a 9 just around the bottom structure, and that is when the bottom was done. The darker the red candles, then the closer you are to the bottom, typically on the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Now, looking at this as well, I believe we fired a 10 or a 9. Here we go. So you put in a 10, literally within a couple of percent from the absolute bottom on this market structure. And, you know, coming back down to fill the lows, it obviously wasn't as scary because we didn't come back down to these lows. But during these mass low phases, you can always see that the bottoms are put in when you put in 8s and 9s and 10s. I mean, in this example, we even put in an 8 and then we put in a 9 and then we bottomed. Looking at the price action right now, over on one of the Bitcoin Fear and Greed indexes I used, we put in a 8, but quite recently we actually put in a 9. So we are still sitting in that very, very highly unprecedented level of fear right now. And at this moment in time, on this weekly snapshot, we're currently sitting at about 10. So pretty brutal for the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Like I said, when you've got these light green slash yellowy hue data points, it's always correlating to when you're seeing a local top. Like every single time you get a little bit too green, a little bit too fast, and then you move back down to these lower price targets. And it's the same on the inverse. When you see these exceptionally dark red candles on the Fear and Greed Index, it's almost always a phase that we're going to be having at least a local bottom. There's another data point why I think that Bitcoin could be having a relief rally over the next couple of weeks. Now, let's move on over to the macro charts and why I think we could be having a relief rally. Now, like I said, we already talked about this. We've had 9 weekly candles to the side. That is absolutely brutal. But now I want to talk about specifically what happens on these charts when you break below uptrending levels of support from the bull market. And then I want to talk about how the 100-day has always been a level that we sometimes bounce on if we haven't bounced up to a trend line. And then I want to talk about how the 200-day has historically almost always been the exact bottom in terms of candle body closes on the weekly, not candle body wicks. You can see we wick below this a few times, but it's almost always been the bottom. For this, let's zoom back a few steps and we'll come back all the way to the bear market of 2015. And it's kind of ironic to call this a bear market because after this huge run up, we really didn't correct too much. I mean, we went from, you know, $2 up to $1,250, and then we came down to $200. So on a logarithmic growth curve scale, this doesn't seem like too harsh of a rejection, but this is simply because we literally had such a wham uptrend. We actually came down. This is the bane of my existence, picking the wrong tool, but we came down and we almost had a 90% drop. So what am I talking about with the 200 week? Well, the 200 week is the orange moving average on this chart right here, and what you can see is within all these bottoms, the candle body closes for the weekly lows always come in at the 200 week. You can see bottom, 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 coming over into the next bear market, the 2018 lows. You'll notice once again right here, the lows were put in on the 200 week moving average. In fact, we didn't even wick below these. Let's go over to the pandemic scare of March 2020. What you'll notice is, yes, we did have wicks below the 200 week, but the candle body closes were perfectly respected, sitting right on the 200 week. After we closed on the 200 week, what did we do the next week? Boom, we got out of there. That was done. That was the bear market low. And you can see 200 week capitulated down below it. Boom, we get out of there. That's the low. 200 week, we capitulate on here. Boom, we're out of here. That is the low. So seems like the 200 week is a good area to target, and if you have been watching my videos, you know that I've been talking about Bitcoin moving down to 22,000. Now, we need to differentiate as well between a relief rally and a trend reversal, because there might be some people who are watching this video who are veterans to my channel, who've been watching my Bitcoin TA and have been watching me say that I think Bitcoin's going to move down to 22,000, and now you might be hearing me say I think Bitcoin is going to have a relief rally, and I'm going to talk about some price targets in a moment. But now you're hearing me talking about a relief rally, and you might be thinking, okay, does Cowboy think the bottom is in? Is Cowboy bullish again? Absolutely not. There is a difference between a relief rally and a macro trend reversal. Let me give you an example of both. For example, if we take it back a step to the 2018 bear market, what you'll notice is Bitcoin very, very promptly moved from 20,000 all the way down to 6,000. Now, what did we then do after that? We moved all the way back up to 12,000. That is a relief rally. We moved back down, we had a relief rally. We moved back down, we had a relief rally. We moved back down, relief rally, down, relief rally, down, relief rally. What do you notice about this? Well, if we formulate a trend line through these data points and change the color to something green, what you'll notice is these are all lower highs. So these are relief rallies because they do not change the trend. They are not intended to change the trend. However, they provide a short bounce in the lower time frames before we roll back down. This is a trend reversal. Why is it a trend reversal? Let's look at the weekly RSI. What you'll notice is that we were in a downtrend since the bull market top, and we broke above this trend line, and as soon as we broke above the weekly RSI and we started to break out of this accumulation phase, that was a trend reversal. Why was that a trend reversal? Because you had a downtrending level of resistance. You can see right here, downtrending, downtrending, downtrending. You break out of the RSI, that's checkbox number 1. You break out of the downtrending level of resistance on the price action, and you start pumping above. That is called a trend reversal. Do I think we're about to see a trend reversal? Well, you tell me. Look at the Bitcoin price. What could happen if Bitcoin could move up to my price targets for the next couple of weeks, which are 34,000 and potentially even 38,000. Let's say 38,000. Let's give the Moon Boys a little bit of hopium. If we move up to 38,000 and we move back down, was this the start of a bull market, or was this simply another data point within a downtrend? Well, if we do get rejected from 38,000, once again, this will be another example of a relief rally. So there is the difference between a relief rally and a trend reversal, and I've been very adamant about this in my videos. While yes, I have been calling for 22,000 Bitcoin, and while no, that price target has not changed whatsoever, I do not think that Bitcoin is going to go up to 100,000 and then bear market's in. I think we're sitting in the bear market right now, but like I said, does that mean we can't have bounces for a month or 2 months, 2 weeks even, on the way? It absolutely doesn't. We can have these relief rallies, and my price target 22,000 can still be in play. So now we've talked about that, what I want to show you is what normally happens once Bitcoin breaks below these trend lines, and specifically I want to talk about the breakdown from the trend lines and the 100-week moving average. Let's jump right into the video. So the 100-week moving average is this purple trend line, and what you'll notice is a lot of the time, once again, we'll run it back to one of the earliest bear market cycles, is, you know, we break down, we have these relief rallies. We broke down here and we had a relief rally into the 100-week moving average. we came down 200 week, and then that was the bottom. But what's interesting about this is, like I said, the downtrend was still there. The downtrend was unchanged. We didn't break out of any sort of downtrend, but we did go below the 100 week, and then we did pump back up to previous resistance. Let's look at what happened over on the chart here. Now, what you'll notice is it was a pretty straight drop from the 100 week. This is why we're also talking about the trend lines, because what you'll notice is we had an uptrending level of support. We broke beneath it, and this is where we kind of lollygagged around the 100 week, just above it for a prolonged period of time, a couple of months. But what you'll notice is, once again, downtrend is very much in play. Downtrend was never subsided, but we came down. We were lollygagging within these trend lines. We lost the uptrending level of support in the bull market. We broke down, and we had multiple relief rallies back up into this resistance before we broke back down to the 200 week, which, like I said, was your bottom. Now, this was a black swan event, so take this with a grain of salt. I think you all know what happened in here. I can't even mention the name of it, otherwise YouTube channels go disappear. But during this pandemic scare, a lot of money was flushed out of the market. This was a black swan event. I don't think we can we can even assume this data point to be anything similar to these previous cycles over here. However, what you'll notice is, once again, we've done something very similar to what we did over here, and this was the fact that we had an uptrending level of support in the bull market. We were holding it, and we broke below it. We bounced on the 100 week. We had a relief rally from the 100 week all the way back up to this downtrending level of resistance, and then we capitulated below the 100 week, and we didn't quite make it to the 200 week, which is once again 22,000, which is my price target for Bitcoin. And now we're seeing a slight pump back to the upside, and there's a few data points on here that I'd like to talk about, in which I think would be a sensible price target for a relief rally. So let's talk about what we could expect next. Like I said, I think this is one of the biggest takeaways. We've just had 9 red weekly candles, 63 days worth of an absolute slaughter fest. I think it would be very, very likely that the Bitcoin price could move up over the next couple of weeks. I don't want people to think that this is the time to buy altcoins. I made a video yesterday, let me get the name of that video up, because if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, Bitcoin's about to have a relief rally, maybe the altcoins will. I highly recommend you go and check out the extensive altcoin video I did yesterday. The title of the video is called Altcoin Annihilation Season. It is the only video I uploaded yesterday, so you shouldn't find it too hard to find. But that is a half-an-hour in-depth video. If you're thinking about buying altcoins right now, if you're thinking about longing altcoins, if you're thinking that altcoins will outperform Bitcoin in this bounce, I highly recommend you go and check out that video, because the data in that video would strongly disagree that altcoins would be bullish right now, especially, which is something that I wasn't going to talk about for the scope of this video, because it's once again not too relevant, but the Bitcoin dominance. The Bitcoin dominance is in a massive breakout at this moment in time, and if you're betting on altcoins, then you're betting against the grain, because look at this. The Bitcoin dominance is having a massive breakout. Yes, Bitcoin is up about 4% on the day, but look what the altcoins are doing. The altcoins aren't doing a lot different. In fact, a lot of the altcoins aren't having bounces of even 4%. Some of the altcoins are having slightly higher bounces, but what is going on the Bitcoin dominance? The Bitcoin dominance is moving up, meaning that in general, Bitcoin is still outperforming altcoins. So it doesn't necessarily make too much sense to me to be going in on altcoins right now when you're still seeing Bitcoin massively outperform these altcoin pairs. With that being said, like I said, if you're still thinking about buying altcoins, I definitely recommend you check out yesterday's video, Altcoin Annihilation Season. But where do I see the price potentially coming back to? Because previously we actually bounced up to the 100 week here, but we only kind of just very, very promptly or very, very momentarily rather slipped below the 100 week. So I don't necessarily think a move back up to the 100 week would be the best target to keep your eyes on, but I definitely think a move back up to 34,000, and if we do get super bullish over the next month, we could even come up to, I drew it slightly differently before, but if we come up over the next week or two, we could even make it up to 38,000, which actually, yeah, I mean, it could be a retest of the 100-week moving average. I do not see Bitcoin moving above this price. 38, let's just call it 38,000. I do not see Bitcoin moving above 38,000, meaning that potentially Bitcoin could move up another 23% in the next couple of weeks. Now, it's hard to put a date on these relief rallies, but there is one last thing that I wanted to talk about for the people who stayed to the end of the video, in a very, very important date coming up in the next 2 weeks or so, in which could be the moment that Bitcoin could begin to roll down. So I presented you with a bunch of data in this video. We talked about how the dollar is going down. We talked about how the stock market's having a relief rally. We talked about the 9 red weekly candles over on the Bitcoin price. We talked about the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. We talked about the Bitcoin macro charts and what to expect during relief rallies, but not only what to expect during relief rallies, what to expect from the 200 and the 100 week moving average. Now I want to try my best to try and encompass a trend line within my prediction today, because like I said, I think Bitcoin's moving up to at least 34,000 in the next couple of weeks. And once again, you know, I have to say this, relief rallies are different to trend reversals. If we even move up to 38,000 and we get a rejection, 22,000 could still be on the table, and I still think it is on the table. However, what I want to say is that in the next week, in the next 2 weeks, I do think Bitcoin is going to be moving up to at least 34,000, potentially 36, 37, and maybe even 38 to our most bullish prediction all the way up here. But when could this trend be done? In my opinion, I don't think we should bet against the Fed. And when is the next FOMC meeting? The next FOMC meeting is it's on the 15th. So we've got approximately, this will be 7/14. So we've got about 15 days until the next Fed meeting. Why is this important? Well, put very simply, the last Fed meeting we had was somewhere around about here. We had an FOMC meeting, and what happened the day after the meeting? If we go into the price, I'll even be able to recognize it because we pumped and dumped into it. So the last FOMC meeting was coming into the 4th of May, and what you'll notice is we pumped into the FOMC meeting, and once people fully digested that the interest rates would be increased by 50 basis points, which if you're not an economist simply means 0.5 of a percentile increase. What happened is we absolutely landslided. I mean, look at this. From the FOMC meeting, I'm not even going to cherry pick it and draw it from the top. I'm going to draw it from when the data on the FOMC was released. So data on the FOMC was released around about here. And what you'll notice is we subsequently moved down. Wow, we moved down a lot further than that. We moved down 32% within a week or so because of the FOMC meeting. Why am I pointing this out? Well, what you'll notice is the next FOMC meeting is on the 15th, and they're still talking about increasing interest rates. So what could happen? Because of all the data I presented you on the dollar, the stock market, the weekly red candles, the fear and greed index, the macro charts, moving averages, all of that good stuff, and relief rallies, I do think we're going to be having a relief rally at least over the next week or two. However, the next FOMC meeting is 15 to 16 days away, and the last time they increased the interest rates, Bitcoin got slaughtered. What do you think is going to happen if once again they double down and increase the interest rates? That would be a 1% increase to the interest rates over such a short period of time. That is something that's not even happened in my lifetime. And, you know, that is, you know, I'm not ancient or anything, but they've never increased the interest rates like this in my entire lifetime. So this is pretty brutal. This is going to be brutal stuff for the stock market. It's going to be brutal stuff for the Bitcoin market. I think the most likely scenario is for Bitcoin to do something like this, to have a relief rally over the next week or two, and then let's say this circle here would be the FOMC meeting. I think we'd kind of, I think we'd trend sideways into the FOMC meeting, maybe have a 1-day pump out of it, and then boom, this is what I think is going to be happening after the next FOMC meeting. So what's another way of saying that? I think Bitcoin could have a relief rally to at least 34,000, but potentially 36, 37, and 38,000 over the next 2 weeks. I think after the FOMC meeting coming into the 15th is done, I think that is probably the best time to hedge your bets once again out of the market. Make sure you're in Bitcoin, make sure you've got some cash on the sidelines, because if the next FOMC meeting comes and they do increase the interest rates, then I'm telling you, the markets are going to get slaughtered. So that is all I've got for today's video. Once again, I really have to hammer this in, because I know there's going to be people who are watching this and maybe are thinking, you know, Cowboy's now bullish on the markets, the bottom is in. I'm still macro bearish on Bitcoin, and specifically I'm macro bearish on the altcoin markets. And let me rephrase that, I'm midterm bearish on Bitcoin. If we're talking about macro being like long term, I am probably one of the biggest Bitcoin macro bulls on YouTube. You might be watching this video thinking, wow, Cowboy's bearish on Bitcoin, he thinks we're going to go to lower price targets. I'm just looking at the chart objectively. Bitcoin's not going to go up in a straight line. You know, you put it in a logarithmic growth curve scale and you see it moves like this. You know, we have these cycles, we go up and down, and when you realize that we're in a top like this and you think we're going to go lower, you know, people are like, well, you're a bear, you know, you think we're going lower, we're going to be in a mega cycle, we're going to go to 100k, then after 100k we're not going to have a correction, we're going to go to 1 million. That's just not how these markets work. They're very cyclical, they repeat again and again and again. They go up, down, up, down, up, down. The majority of the price action is to the upside over time. I am a mega Bitcoin bull. Don't get it twisted. I think Bitcoin is going to hundreds of millions of dollars in my lifetime. I'm a massive Bitcoin bull. I can't emphasize that enough. What do I think is going to be happening over the next couple of weeks? I think it's very likely Bitcoin could be having a relief rally, and then coming into the next FOMC meeting on the 15th, we could be having once again a rollover to lower price targets. I hope you enjoyed today's video talking about the Bitcoin June relief rally, or at least in my opinion, what we could potentially be seeing if we do have a relief rally in June. As always, if you did enjoy the content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That's all I've got for you today. Cowboy out. Peace.